Hello and thanks for tuning in. I'm Afra Raymond and today I'm going to be speaking about a CL Financial bailout. So you would have heard about Clico, you would have heard about one Lawrence Dupree, you may have heard about Andre Montai, you may remember the Minister of Finance Karen Nunes Teixeira in 2009 who turned out to be a shareholder and a depositor in CL Financial's companies. You may actually remember the governor of the central bank at that time was Ewart Williams, who also turned out to be a depositor. And more interestingly, more recently, as we say, he is the current advisor to the Minister of Finance, Colm Imbert. So it's all very current, and I'm going to give you an update about where we are with CL Financial. So what I want to talk about is the whole CL Financial fiasco, and it's the biggest economic and financial crisis to occur in the Caribbean in 100 years. We are in a position in Trinidad and Tobago where there isn't enough money so that there could be soap in the hospitals. But we had enough money in our treasury for the cabinet of the 30th of January 2009 to agree an unlimited bailout, a blank check at zero interest to the wealthiest man in the Caribbean, which is of course Lawrence Dupree, who was the big chief behind the CL Financial empire. And at the latest count, about $25 billion of our money have been spent. Before the 30th of January 2009, there were certain actions and inactions and decisions that caused the CL Financial Group to collapse. If you look at the period after the 30th of January 2009, there were certain actions and inactions, all of which taken together constitute the bailout that cost our treasury $25 billion. The actions before 30th of January 2009 were subject to a commission of inquiry. That commission of inquiry finished its work in the middle of 2013. And that commission of inquiry published its report on the 22nd of June 2016, and the report was handed to the president, who handed it the same day to the prime minister. At least they've agreed that much. And the prime minister handed it to the DPP. So as far as we know, there are 3 copies in existence: the president, the prime minister, and the director of public prosecutions. We were then told by a member of cabinet that the DPP has actually objected to any publication of the report because certain investigations have to be completed and certain prosecutions could well follow from those investigations. Therefore, the Coleman report has been effectively suppressed. I'm using the word carefully and deliberately suppressed. And I'll get back to why I'm saying it's suppressed. Let's get to the second half of the story. The second half of the story, and some people would say is the bigger half, is the half after the 30th of January 2009. I myself have done a number of Freedom of Information applications, and I was successful in one on the 22nd of July last year, 2015, when I sued the Ministry of Finance for all the details of the bailout. I was successful on the 22nd of July 2015, and the previous administration, the one called the People's Partnership, under the Minister of Finance, Larry Hawaii, immediately appealed. And of course, you all know there was an election on the 7th of September 2015 at which the People's National Movement was victorious. And I entered fairly quickly after the election, sort of October or November of last year, I entered negotiations and discussions with the Minister of Finance, the current Minister of Finance and the Economy, which is Colm Imbert. And Imbert and I had a number of discussions. And cutting a very long story short, on Monday the 18th of July 2016, Imbert and myself agreed, it's what's called a consent order at the appeal court, that we would continue the fight. So in fact, the Minister of Finance under the new administration has agreed to continue the fight initiated by the Minister of Finance under the previous administration. And in case you're wondering if I'm winking, I am winking, because that is the change you voted for. You understand? You feel it? That's the change you voted for. Let's come back now to the whole question of the Coleman report, because I said to you earlier on, we've had a financial collapse that in fact has been a tremendous public concern. And in fact, to assuage that public concern, the previous administration, the People's Partnership, commissioned a public inquiry, which under our system is called a commission of inquiry, into those events that led to the failure, not only of the CL Financial Group, but of the Hindu Credit Union Group. The Hindu Credit Union Group is important because the investigation into that was completed on the 16th of July 2014. That investigation was completed and that report went through the same sequence. It was passed to the President, Honorable Anthony Carmona, The president passed it to the prime minister, who at the time was Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And I want to say, to her credit and to the credit of the People's Partnership, it was published the same day in Parliament. So you can go to the Parliament website and find the Coleman report into the collapse of the Hindu Credit Union. Question: if a Commission of Inquiry report into a financial crisis recommends prosecutions, and the publication of that report would jeopardize those prosecutions, therefore the report is not published because one wants to give priority to the prosecutions, let us skeptically dismantle that. Because the Hindu Credit Union report, Sir Anthony Coleman makes very clear recommendations of investigations and prosecutions. Very clear. Harry Hanarine, his cohort, certain people within the regulators and so on, they're all named in the report. Great detail. Yet, that report was published the day it was received by the Prime Minister at that time, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Yet, the Director of Public Prosecutions, who we are told has expressed a concern over the publication of the Coleman report into CL Financial, that Director of Public Prosecutions did not make any complaint. You see, it's either or, you can't have it both ways. If the report was going to recommend prosecutions, which it did, and those prosecutions were endangered by publication, because the publication did take place, why didn't the DPP complain? Why did he complain now and not then? If the publication of that report, which again is a fact, the Hindu Credit Union report, did not jeopardize investigations and prosecutions, what are we waiting for? Because the report was published on the 16th of July 2014. We're speaking today on the 1st of October 2016. Where are the arrests? Where are the prosecutions? Where are the investigations with respect to Hindu Credit Union? Is this a case of spinning top in mud and white-collar criminals rule? Who runs this place? So that's the story with the Hindu Credit Union, the CL Financial Group, and the whole absence of information, the culture of secrecy, the code of silence. Okay, the cartel, because it's a cartel. That's why they can't tell. So the first part of it, the Coleman report, up to the 30th of January 2009, suppressed. The second part of it, my own litigation, which was successful on the 22nd of July last year, 2015, that challenged in the appeal court. Both halves of this story suppressed and the truth concealed. Is that any way to build a republic? Is that any way to take us forward? I'm speaking on the last day of the season of reflection. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode on CL Financial. If you would like to know more about it, a lot of material is on my blog, afraraymond.net, which is to the bottom of the screen. Or you may want to get involved and participate in dealing with some of these issues. You could take up membership of civil society organizations like the Trinidad and Tobago Transparency Institute. Or you could take up membership of another organization doing similar work like Disclosure Today. Or you could take up membership of the Constitution Reform Forum, which is examining the ways we could change our Constitution, the ways we ought to change our Constitution for our benefit and the benefit of future generations. Thanks again for looking. Thank you.